will now start the cross-examination. Is large companies making millions of dollars every year more important than receiving the best medical care and medications for our health?
No, it is not more important, but the companies have a legal patent on their products that cannot be violated. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, a study evaluated the results of 38 published clinical trials that compared cardiovascular generic drugs to their brand name counterparts. There was no evidence that the brand name heart drugs worked any better than the generic heart drugs. This proves that the patented drugs are not any better than the generic brand. This means that the price does not affect the quality of the medical care.
Why will the name brand companies refuse to lower the prices of their medications if they are just as effective as the generic brand drugs?
The name brand companies will not go out of business because they lower their prices. They will simply not just make as much money as they usually did in the past. Although this seems to be a great solution to the problem, you have failed to realize that the name brand companies conduct research to further our knowledge of the medications. Without the research that they conduct within their facilities, the research of medications will solely rely on outside resources such as the universities and hospitals. While the FDA does conduct the research, it is not continuous and as a result may lead into problems.
I will now start the first affirmative rebuttal. I will first start with my opponent's value premise of justice. While the criminal justice system does provide justice for criminal acts, the justice is not always in the best interest of the accused or the people. Many prisons have been cutting their treatment programs due to budget cuts. States like Pennsylvania and Kentucky have already shut down their programs, and California and Texas are following. In addition, most prisoners have easy access to outside substances, such as illegal drugs. A human rights report last year concluded that drugs are as available in prison as in the street. By combining these two scenarios, the criminal justice system is almost encouraging the addictive behavior by refusing treatment and not filtering out foreign substances. My value premise of public welfare applies both justice for acts deserving of such punishment and the greater good of the population. According to the National Center on Addiction and Substance Use at Columbia University, only 11% of the nation's inmates with alcohol or drug problems get treatment during their incarceration. The criminal justice system cannot possibly believe that they are helping the abusers or society with this kind of record. Recidivism is almost inevitable when applying the criminal justice system. Moving on to my opponent's contention of the patents established by medical companies and how the government would not violate patents on medicines contradicts the contention of reciprocity. The reciprocity between tax-paying citizens and the government is an exchange of privileges, so the government has to give up their privilege of interfering to ensure the American population has the freedom of using medication if they choose to do so. The taxpayers' money goes towards federal prisons, and with recidivism at all-time highs, their money is being wasted. By entering the criminal justice system and returning after their releasement, the intended punishment is wasted and tax money has been thrown away. Most public health programs and treatment centers are privately owned, so the person who needs the rehab is who's the person who will pay for it. Most of the time, it's free anyways or extremely accessible and does not cost the taxpayers money. My contention of the government's interference with medical uses of prescription medication highlights the fact that the government or criminal justice system should not interfere with prescription medications and the use of illegal drugs. If the drugs enter the sale market but come from legal backgrounds, how is it justified to deny the original legality due to the following illegal outcomes? Patients who rely on illegal drugs as treatment will suffer because of the government's interference. If the drugs do end up with someone who's not the patient, it should be then considered a matter of public health. Lastly, addressing my opponent's contention regarding the legalization of illegal drugs following the public health approach. Just because a law does not get punished does not make the act legal. Legal can be defined as a body of rules of conduct of binding legal force and effect, prescribed, recognized, and enforced by controlling authority. This authority does not have to come from the criminal justice system. In rehab centers, people have custody over their patients, and patients give up their rights to be there. That is a type of reciprocity that does not involve the government. When the government or criminal justice system steps in, no problems are ever solved and the greater good suffers because of it.
I will now start my negative rebuttal. My opponent's value of consequentialism, which is actions following an act that determine the rightness of the act, applies more to the criminal justice system than the public health. If there are no consequences for breaking the law, what stops murderers from being pardoned as well? It's crucial that broken laws get some form of positive punishment. Positive punishment is defined as presenting a negative consequence after an undesired behavior is exhibited, making the behavior less likely to happen in the future. This supports the reasoning for, when proven guilty, giving the charges that they do to the convicted felon. The consequence of serving time in jail would be enough to prevent the future use of illegal drugs. For possession of illegal drugs, there is a $20,000 fine along with 2 to 10 years in jail. According to the National Association of Drug Court Professionals, 60% to 80% of drug abusers commit a new crime, typically a drug-driven crime, after release from prison. While numbers are high for recidivism, many ex-prisoners purposefully commit a crime because they are homeless or because they need health care. Prisons and jails do offer many types of treatment programs and opportunities for the abusers to overcome their addiction and prevent the future arrest due to the same crime. For example, the Bureau of Prisons has a program that changes the lives of the inmates. In the 12-week program, the inmates learn about the harmful effects of the illegal drugs. The program was designed to reduce relapse, criminality, recidivism, and inmate misconduct. For the last 20 years, the Bureau of Prisons have been helping inmates identify patterns of thinking that lead to self-destructive actions and beliefs so that they can improve their coping skills. This helps them for when they are out of prison and need to make intelligent decisions for themselves. While recidivism does exist, it is ultimately the user who decides whether or not to use the illegal drugs. In addition, violating the patent of the drugs is a crime in itself. According to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, a patent owner has the right to exclude others from making, selling, offering to sell, importing, or using a patented invention. This is a government violation and should be treated like one. A violation of any law has a form of punishment because it is illegal. In addition, my opponent's value of public welfare does not correlate with the public health solution. By not enforcing laws when they are broken, the power of the government is being limited. The reputation of the government will be taken less seriously and will negatively affect the public. The citizens of the United States will start to believe that they will be able to break laws and patents and be able to get away with it. The court system and juries take into account the personal situation of the accused person and determine a just and fair punishment. The criminal justice system offers a fair system of punishment for criminals and facilitates the rehabilitation and treatment for addicts.
I will now start the second affirmative rebuttal. While my opponent does recognize that recidivism does exist, they fail to see how it affects the person. Drug abuse cannot be solved by attending a few treatment programs while in prison. It involves full rehab because the abuse of illegal drugs takes large tolls on the user's body. As I mentioned earlier in my case, Most prisons don't even offer any type of treatment, and many are cutting them out due to budget cuts. People who abuse drugs don't wish to be back in a prison cell. They can't help but to defer back to their old ways. The public health approach aims to solve this never-ending cycle that the criminal justice system seems to condone. By devoting time to see the rehabilitation occurs in the addicts, the rate of recidivism will decrease substantially. Illegal drugs have physical and mental effects on the body and can totally take over someone's body without their control. This should not be looked at in the same way as a murder. I'm not supporting the use of illegal drugs. I'm defending the right of those persons to have a fair chance at treatment and have a chance of overcoming their addiction. Consequentialism applies here because by not having such a severe punishment for victimless crimes, the abuser of the illegal drugs has a chance at overcoming their addiction. The public health approach is the only option for maintaining public welfare and protecting the citizens of America.
Thank you.
Thank you.